This is Dead Days Radio. All right, you guys.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So Dead Days Radio, first radio station in the apocalypse. We're brand new to the Southgate Media Group. Happy to be here. Really excited. So it's a great time to be in the Walking Dead universe right now. I'm joined by...
I'm Troy Heinrichs from the Blacklist Exposed and UnderTheDomeRadio.com. Glad to be here.
Cool. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So in the Walking Dead universe, we've got a very unique opportunity right now to start over. And to me, that's one of the coolest things, is we're not waking up with Rick out of a coma. We are starting right when the outbreak happens, right when the first person turns. So to kind of talk about what's going to happen, we're in Los Angeles. We have a diverse cast of people. There's 14 million people in Los Angeles. It's not like we're just waking up somewhere in the middle of the woods. So what do you think is going to be the best thing for you to start over again?
I wouldn't even call it starting over. It's almost like it's a new show, because when you think about what we've all dealt with for the last 5 seasons, coming up from Atlanta, going up, heading towards DC, it's really an interesting juxtaposition of what has really been happening in the rest of the world, because we've only been seeing this sliver of highway all the way up to DC for the last 6 seasons.
That's true.
5 seasons. And so now we get to go back to where it started, and maybe it's where it started, right? This first person's going to have the outbreak. So did the virus actually start in LA? Or did LA get the virus because somebody flew into LA because LAX is such a big airport? So really it's trying to figure out, where did the virus come from? And I think that's one of the main stories of Fear of the Walking Dead that I'm really most excited about.
Sure. And for me, it's really about the title of the show is Fear the Walking Dead. When we start with The Walking Dead, we pick up everybody who's already been desensitized to walkers. So if you've been keeping up with any of the trailers that have come out, you get to see that genuine fear in people. And one in particular, one of the trailers is one of our main cast. He wakes up from a night of partying, because that's what they do in LA. He wakes up from partying and he sees this girl munching on another guy who was passed out. And she turns around, he tries to talk to her, she turns around and he stabs her, and she keeps coming. And as you see him running and running, you genuinely see the fear of not just running, but you are running from something he's never encountered before.
And I really like the concept that they're using fear as well, because if you think about what we've seen between Rick's group in the original show and what they've had to deal with, and like, which humans can we trust? Who can we really partner up with as part of our family? You also get that part of it, because as an outbreak occurs of any kind, rioting starts, humans lose their humanity and they just start grabbing and tossing and ripping. And we're downtown here today in lovely Elgin, Illinois, and you could just imagine people just jumping out of these buildings and ripping through the street festival down here. I mean, that fear is also very real when this virus breaks out.
Absolutely. So one thing that I think is going to be cool, it's going to kind of be tougher on the special effects crew, but making these walkers / zombies, making them real and fearful in a way, because we have to understand that there's no rotting taking place. In The Walking Dead, we're seeing 2.5, 3 years have passed by, so we're seeing walkers with missing limbs and flesh falling off. Now it's people like you and I. We might have had a heart condition. We might have just bumped our head. We might have just gotten a bite somewhere and we're bleeding a little from our shirt. So I think that identification part is going to be tricky.
Yeah, that's one thing that could be really great too, because instead of seeing the jaws open that they have, it's more going to be like maybe grayish skin tones as they start to decompose, but they're really going to be freshly turned at that moment. And when you have that freshly turned concept, I think one of the things that comes from season 2's revelation of, hey, we're all infected whether we got bit or not. I wonder if that's going to play into fear, or if it's still going to be you have to get bit in order to turn kind of concept.
Right.
So that's something they could play with at that first season.
That could absolutely be an evolution of the virus at that point. Is once it started somewhere, but as viruses mutate and change in our world, they could have done that same thing, and that's kind of where it's mutated to where we all have it now. So that's a good point. One of the other things is I've kind of been thinking about is the slow start to the show. You can't just jump in and have everything go. They have to build that emotional connection to the characters before everything breaks down. So I'm thinking we're going to go the first episode, we're not even going to see a walker. I think it's going to be a slow, kind of a duller start because they already have the audience captivated because the audience watching Fear is already, part of the 10, 20 million viewers that have already been watching The Walking Dead. So, any prediction on when you're going to see your first walker?
I'm going to say that they'll close the first episode.
It'll be
the cliffhanger to go into that second one is when we'll see. And it'll be like something like unexpected. They'll be doing something, and then the camera will just pan, and then boom, it'll be like right there.
Sure.
Yeah, to get you kind of like to get that fear concept built up, because one of the things that'll be interesting to find out is if they can literally keep, the 10 to 15 million viewers that are watching Dead entertained long enough to have that kind of slow, methodical start to a show that a normal show would need.
Right.
Because there is going to be some kind of expectation already in play. So can they keep a slow-moving format initially without losing some of that people because they're like, I'll just wait till October.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I'm curious, and I think this is how it's going to tie in, is current day social media. We're everywhere. We're doing everything. That's how I get my news. That's how I learn about breaking news, whether it's from SportsCenter, Twitter, any kind of news outlet. I think that's going to have a huge play into how this information spreads. What happens in Missouri or Illinois or Iowa, it can reach the coast in a matter of seconds. And from one of the trailers, you see it where these teenage girls, they're watching a walker turn on the interstate and bite one of the paramedics. And they're like, no, it can't be real. And then they're watching that same walker get shot 15 times by the police officer, and he keeps walking. And everyone's saying, no, that can't be real. No, that can't be real. So it's going to be neat to see that kind of aspect come in, and maybe that's where we do see that at the cliffhanger into that next episode of part 2, I guess. So another kind of fun dynamic to think about is when we go into The Walking Dead, there's 2 police officers, there's survivalists, there's mechanics, everyone, there were 2 people who could work on the RV. There were 2 people who could teach everybody how to shoot. Daryl and Merle were there to do the dirty work, and start fires and do all this stuff. Now in Los Angeles, I don't see that need of those kind of skill sets in Los Angeles. And going off of what the cast people are, one is a school teacher, one is a guidance counselor. And you have these kids who are tied into social media. They're not here or they don't have country accessible. So do you foresee any major loss from what we would presume to be some of the main cast?
Well, I think if we think about the title again of Fear, you have to look at who would be more scared. Would you have someone that's a blue collar, able to fend for themselves, start fires in the wilderness, hunt deer? Would they be scared of something, or would they fight it head on? Versus someone like a teacher who literally is like, not afraid of 22 kids in a classroom, but man, if there's a zombie coming at me, like, how do you react to that? So I think it's really great that they actually decided to not have the typical setup of characters that could basically help us and move the story along from an attack perspective.
Sure.
I think this is very much going to be a defensive play, kind of like Rick was out of the gate, hiding in the tank, hiding in the house before he went on the attack. And they're going to have to learn how to survive in this new reality.
Yeah, and I think that'll be pretty cool to watch that skill set develop, watch them figure out who's worth their salt. He said he could do this, but now he really can't. If you're meeting people in The Walking Dead now, obviously they can survive unless they're behind walls of Alexandria. But it's that neat challenge that I think is going to be cool. Having those preconceived notions of, okay, here's the main cast, they're going to make it through. I think we're going to lose some of that main cast right off the bat of people who we think is the main cast, because they're going to go through these 6 episodes and they're going to meet new people and pick people up. So the main people that you identify with in those first 3 episodes of being the 6 or to 10 main people, I think we have a chance at losing half of those people and picking up newer people at the back half of the season.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I was kind of interested when they said they were going to do this was to see if they were going to stick with a core group of characters. Because when you think about The Walking Dead, I joke about this with my wife. There was like the scene, of course, when little ass kicker gets born, and you're just like sobbing and weeping, and it's like, man, it's like this just rocks your world. And she's like, "Are you crying at a zombie show?" And I'm like, "It's not a zombie show. It's a character connection. It's a human emotional thing." And I'm wondering if they're going to keep that perspective and fear, or if they're going to make it more of a anybody's fair game. You kill off everybody in the first episode. It's a whole new set of characters in the second episode. It'd be interesting to see how long that core group sticks together.
Sure.
And if they can just, like you said, 14 million people in LA, we could literally have little mini stories for the entire first season, which would be really cool. And then have like all those mini stories like converge to then have our group built for season 2.
Well, and just kind of looking at the cast and how the main group of people right now is built up. You have the wife. She has her own children. The husband has his own children, and this all kind of starts to go down as the kids are in transit between their own set of families. So you see some of the relationships are kind of rocky with the adults. So I really see how you can lose that half of people, and they're encountering these people. Are we going to lose one of the main male and main female? No, but we could lose some of their kids. We can lose some of their neighbors. Those are all possibilities that we weren't able to explore in The Walking Dead, but now we're going to really have a good crack at that again here to start over.
But if you are catering to the original Walking Dead audience for the show, then I think you also have to be careful of what we like to call red shirts, right?
Yeah.
You can't just have the random red shirt people get killed off by the walkers. You're going to need to feel somebody specific getting attacked, being under pressure, in order, I think, to grab the existing Dead audience. The question would be, how much new audience will they pick up from this show, and then will they continue on with season 6 or go back to the beginning?
Sure. So one thing that I don't like to do comparisons because Robert Kirkman and all them, they've come out and said, it's a companion series. It's not a spin-off. It's its own storyline, its own story arc. The timeline will catch up at some point, but there will be no interaction and no similarities back and forth. One thing I'm looking forward to is when The Walking Dead started, they were in the city and then they left the city right away. LA is huge. It's massive. If you've ever flown into it or driven through it, it is just mind-boggling on how big it is. So there's no way they're making it out of the city and out of the city without any casualties. So just part of an open forum, open discussion here. How long do you think they're going to be able to stay in the city and survive as is?
That's a really great question, because I guess it depends on how fast the virus spreads if we are in the early days of the virus. Like when they went back into the city in the original series to get supplies or whatever, I mean, the place was just overrun already. So I guess, could they survive in the city long enough to get to the outskirts? And maybe that's the whole ploy. They have to get from like LA to Orange to Anaheim to, out into the desert. And then once you get to the desert, then what happens? Because I mean, California is desert all the way around.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck. So do you risk it going that direction? Or do you stay in what's handy? Because, I mean, downtown LA, every block has its own grocery store. There's Starbucks literally right across the street from each other. So there's access to all these things early. It'll be interesting to see where they really set up shop at. Are they going to invade a coffee shop and just hang out here for as long as they can and cover the windows? Or are they going to try and make it back? Are they going to make the mistake of going to the suburbs? Because then you're going to see your friends and family. You're going to see those people in positions you don't want them to be in. People who you thought were your friends may not be your friends anymore. And, there's that risk there that staying in unfamiliar territory means you don't have emotional connections to your surroundings. But going back to familiar territory makes you able to survive longer, but it creates a bunch more emotional attachments.
Yeah, one of the shows that was on Discovery Channel a few years ago was called The Colony. Yeah. And it was a really great show and an idea of what would happen if a viral outbreak happened and you were the last surviving humans on Earth, and how would you be able to survive that? And it was done in L.A., and they had to go down to like the LA River to get water and then figure out how to boil it in order to drink it and shower and all this other stuff. And I really like that season of The Colony. I want this to kind of be that, at least for the first season, maybe 2, of just that, how do you survive in LA? One, because it's LA, and how do you survive in LA anyway today? And
Absolutely.
And then to deal with this other problem of these people coming to eat you.
Right. And I guess kind of the other little thing I'm kind of anxious to see is how people are bartering. Do people realize this is it? This is the end? Or are they going to start charging $50 for a pack of cigarettes?
Right.
You know, is there going to be that, well, hey, I want $50 for this pack of cigarettes, or, oh, well, hey, this gallon of milk now is going to be $14 instead of the $4 it was.
Wait, you get milk for $4?
Yeah, I'm from Iowa, so
Holy cow.
it's there.
We need to get him some milk over here. Ship it across the border.
So to see that kind of bartering and the looting and wondering when people are going to get it and when they aren't. Because when we pick up, Rick's coming out of the coma, people already have come to cope with what's going to happen. Now, are people going to figure it out, or are they just going to, they'll get it fixed, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And then as things really start to deteriorate, we see the city of Los Angeles start to crumble. And that's kind of what's going to be really cool about this.
Yeah, it's almost like taking a page out of Revolution a little bit. That TV show that with the power went out, and then people weren't able to have power, so then it started to make their own factions and militias across the United States. I wonder if they're going to play off of that a little bit too, because it was a lot of survivalistic mode. And then will there end up being like you have Anaheim, or you have the Redlands, or you have downtown LA? Will there be these little camps of people? And will those camps start to war against each other, and the walkers become like a secondary thing as well?
Sure. Well, and that's another good thing. So kind of going into that line of discussion is I'm hoping we don't get the bad guy mantra very fast in this one. Something that's weighing on me in The Walking Dead is there's always got to be one bad guy that's the focus, and the walkers and survival become kind of a secondary plot point to the show. I like that survival aspect being the main point and the walkers being the main point. Any thoughts on, are we going to get to the bad guy right away, or are the walkers going to be the threat? Obviously for the first season, yeah, but I hope we don't go down that road of having the bad guy and here he is, we have to fix it, whether it's the governor or the guy from Terminus, and then now the wolves and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about, because where Walking Dead kind of went into that whole, even Herschel was almost an enemy in season 2 for a little while, trying to convince him that he didn't understand what was really happening on the outside world. So really all the bad guys in the original series have been humans, where in this case, I think Fear the Walking Dead really implies that it's going to be about fearing what's happening with the virus and the dead, and there won't be an actual human bad guy, which is my hope, at least for the first 2 seasons.
Sure. So let's just roll into The Walking Dead season 6 right now real quick.
Sure.
Just real quick, the Fear the Walking Dead, August 23rd, AMC, so we're 3 weeks away. I am pumped about it.
Super excited.
So season 6. Season 5, we finished up. The place is just in absolute turmoil. There's a power struggle for who's in charge and who's really in charge. We're seeing our core group of people really starting to fracture. Abraham is doing his own thing on the construction. He's minding his own business. He's building his area. You see Maggie in the house and doing her own thing. And everyone is starting to slowly make their own groups. And Rick is no longer the leader of our pack, so to speak. And now they come in with a new group where we have new characters and they have their own division. The place is exploding. What do you think? How are we going to start this season? So we started with Reg getting his neck spliced wide open. Rick put a bullet in the guy's head. We're ending this. This is how it's going to be. Then Morgan walks up, sees Rick. So many, just in that 30-second clip there, right at the very end, so many story arcs just exploded out of that 30 seconds.
It absolutely did. And the one thing that I really loved was that from the beginning of the show, you have this, scene with Rick and Morgan and this, bond that they have, and they're always checking their walkie-talkies the entire first season. Hey, I've been reaching you. And when Morgan kind of comes back into the picture in season 4 for that one episode, I almost felt that was a letdown, because I felt like there was going to be something bigger between them and their relationship, because it was set up in that pilot. And so to see Morgan kind of walk up at the end, I was like, yes, this is exactly why they had that conversation. It was about Rick talking Morgan off the ledge because of his wife and protecting his kid. And now here we see Rick doing exactly that, protecting his kid and protecting his family since his wife didn't make it. And so now Morgan is going to be the old Rick, I think. He's going to be that central core, and maybe Morgan actually becomes the leader.
Well, and it was a good turning point, too, because if you're referencing season 4, Morgan is off the ledge. Rick's talking to him about life and being there and doing the right thing and coming back. And, I was upset when they left and this guy had an entire National Guard armory in his house and they leave without taking anything. Now the tables are completely flipped, where Rick has no regard for life or the rules, and Morgan has completely done the opposite, saying everything has value and he won't cross that line anymore. So it'll be interesting, where is Morgan going to become the new Rick? Because Rick is now becoming the governor.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think it's really, you have to look at Rick, though, and everything that he's been through. So is he really becoming the governor, or is he just completely cracked? Which I think is why they had to have that episode, now to go back and look at it in season 4, to show the juxtaposition between the two things of what is reality, what is because of circumstance, and what is truly like off the rails.
Sure.
Because, when you get your body eaten in Terminus, I mean, they'll crack anybody, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we can kind of relate to this, where you're kind of always chasing your hero right now, and then you finally meet your actor or musician, and they turn out to be just an absolute jerk. Look at Morgan. I mean, he has been slowly progressing, looking for Rick, finds Abraham's map that is leading them to right where Rick is going to be. And then he meets up with Daryl, and he sees the map, and Rick Grimes, and then they have their conversation, and now Morgan is going to meet his hero, and he just killed somebody.
Right.
Just a total and utter heartbreak at that moment. So we're almost done here. Do you have any bold predictions for season 6?
I think that I want to call her the mayor, because I can't think of anything else to call her. But the mayor of Alexandria, I think she'll side with Rick still. I think that there was something about the way she vetted him through the process, and she really wants to make sure the town is safe. And because she gave the order basically to kill her husband,
right?
That I think that she's going to stay on Rick's side. But I think what you're going to see is maybe Rick's old family, start to shift towards Morgan. And you're going to literally see the battle for Alexandria this entire season. Who's going to come out on top? And will one side kill the other? I don't know, because I haven't read the actual graphic novels or anything. But at the same time, they have this external enemy that we meet towards the end of the season.
Wolves?
The Wolves, will they have to actually band together against them? Or will they be kind of a three-way fight for the town?
So Deanna, that's the mayor. So I agree with your point. Is she still wants to trust Rick, even though she knows Rick has done bad things, and she even told Father Gabriel that, look, he's had to do things to survive. I'm okay with that because that's the reality of the world we live in. But as we can see from some of the trailers, there is that division in Alexandria where they're choosing their own sides. Is, look, Rick is crazy. He's a hothead. We don't want him in here. These are not the morals we've held together. And Deanna is saying, no, this is how it is. This is what has to happen. And then that's when I think the Wolves are going to make their entrance and force that, force either that unity, or there's that possibility of where people inside the walls are going to go with the Wolves, because I can't imagine the Wolves are just going to come up and say, hey, we're here to take everything, get out of the city. There's going to be a little romancing there. They're going to try and weasel their way in so that way they can get in and take everything. So I think there's that possibility where someone in Alexandria could make that. So main character death in season 6. Who's gonna? I'm guessing.
I went to New Media Expo, and they had Kirkman was there with the president of AMC, and Glenn was there. And the way they made it sound, I would say Glenn would be the one to go next.
Sure, that's kind of been my prediction. Is either Glenn or Maggie is the next person, because they're doing too good. And as we look at the last 6 seasons, whoever's doing really good and turning that corner into a feel-good story usually means you're the next one out. So, they're talking about starting a family. This is a place where we can start our family and start over and, really make a stand in this world and start to recreate everything. That's usually the signal for you're out of here.
Totally.
So one of them is going to go. I think it's going to be very quick. our season 6 cliffhanger was without a major character death. It's got to happen in episode 1 or 2.
Now, selfishly, though, I wish we could just knock off Carl right away. Because then Rick will really go off the handle, because I don't know if Carl really adds any value to the show anymore.
Sure.
He did through season 3, I think, to kind of keep Rick grounded based on everything that happened when Ass Kicker was born. But after that point, like, Carl right now to me, it seems like he's expendable just because he's not contributing to the show. But from a dynamic perspective, yeah, Glenn or Maggie would be the ones I would pick.
We have the kind of running joke on our show that, as Carl has gotten older and grown up faster, then he's outpaced his character in the show. It's 2.5 years in the timeline of the show, and he's aged 6 years, going from 12 to 18, that they just keep getting him a bigger sheriff's hat, so that way it doesn't go off. All right, so thanks a lot. I appreciate your help today.
You bet.
Check us out, Dead Days Radio on Facebook, all one word, deaddaysradio.com, Dead Days Radio on Instagram, Twitter. We're all out there. Thanks a lot, everybody.